Hi, welcome to another edition of Paterno Presser here at AltoonaMirror.com. And this isn't just any old edition. This is Penn State versus Ohio State. Cory, Rudel, as Sean Lee just said a few moments ago, if you're going to win the conference, if you're going to achieve the goals that you want to achieve at Penn State, at some point you got to beat Ohio State.
Sure. I mean, this is why you come to Penn State, play against Ohio State, play against Michigan. And I think it's all set up for Penn State pretty well. I mean, you're at home. You're coming off a game where you clearly weren't on your A game, just like they came off the Minnesota game and weren't on their A game going into Michigan, and that worked out pretty well.
Joe was asked today, kind of beating the drum about Darryl Clark, whether Darryl Clark deserved to be mentioned in the Heisman race. You had a really good point about that. Joe didn't just come out and say yes. He kind of danced around it a little bit. Why do you think he did that?
Well, I don't think he'll gripe and moan that he's not getting enough credit and things like that, but he never really comes right out and says, yeah, I think those guys, that he should get the Heisman. First of all, I don't think Darryl Clark should be in the Heisman conversation yet until he plays great against Ohio State. I think if he does that, it'd be different. And I think, knowing Joe, he doesn't want to put a lot of pressure on him going into the Ohio State game.
Now,
and they've had one Heisman winner here in 50 years, and that's not really by design. They really don't promote players.
And we don't want to ignore the elephant in the room, that being Terrell Pryor's first visit out here to the country in Happy Valley. Doesn't like this place. It's out in the country. What kind of reception will Terrell Pryor receive here, and how will the fans treat him on Saturday?
Well, I think I think this is one of the most difficult spots, maybe the most difficult spot that I ever remember any visiting one player coming into based on the recruiting history. All that said, it's not like basketball where a guy comes out to an introduction, and I would hope that people realize here's a kid that's young, immature, maybe didn't have great guidance with some of the things that he has said. But I think it's going to be a tough spot for him.
Now,
really tough for him to play well.
No question. And I'll throw this question out to you, Neil. Let's say you could go back and you could use the benefit of hindsight with seeing what Clark has done, seeing what Pryor's done. If you could build your program right now with one of these two guys as a freshman going forward for 4 or 5 years, who would you build around, Darryl Clark or Terrell Pryor? Which may seem like a crazy question given Pryor's great recruiting status, but if you could pick one as a freshman and have for 4 years, who would you
for right now, you would say Clark. I mean, he was under-recruited and Pryor was overhyped, and Clark has developed and Pryor maybe hasn't to this point. You don't know down the road, is Pryor going to develop the skills? Is he going to be patient enough to be a drop-back passer? When you're a runner in high school and you can run away from everybody and he's got such a great long stride, I'll be curious how many shots Penn State gets at him in the open field. But to answer your question, I'd say Clark.
Now, Clark is 3.5 years older than Terrell Pryor, 23.5 versus 20 for Pryor. Clark, not only did he get the red shirt, he also went to prep school for a year, and he's a fifth-year senior. So the impetus of that question is, do you think that Terrell Pryor will be better by the time he is a senior than Darryl Clark is right now?
Clark's putting up some great numbers this year. He's on the verge of several season records at Penn State. I think that will Pryor become a better quarterback ultimately than Clark? I don't know that, but I don't know that he'll ever become the leader that Clark has been. I think Clark is a very thoughtful kid, answers all the questions, sits there, really is honest. I mean, I'm just so impressed with him as a leader and as a quarterback.
Now, the one thing that gets under my skin the most about Big Ten football and these types of games, last year was 13-6 Penn State. Great football game. We were there. We saw the fumble that Ruben caused. I thought it was a great football game. Football experts around the country bashed on Penn State, bashed on Ohio State, bashed on the Big Ten for a 13-6 game, calling it boring, calling it typical Big Ten football. Meanwhile, you have Oklahoma go out and beat Oklahoma State 61-41, no defense at all, and people think that's a great football game. I don't understand the nation's perception that good defense can't mean good football.
the eye of the beholder, and the northern schools and the Big Ten schools think that. I even thought the 6-4 game, while not against Iowa in 2004, while not well played, was certainly tenaciously competed.
Sean Lee thought it was well played.
Yeah, that's why he went to Penn State.
But yeah, it's interesting how
there was, what was it, Oregon last year? Oregon State got lit up. They had the chance to go to the Rose Bowl for the first time in 40-some years, and they got lit up for 65 points.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just don't think that would ever happen to a Big Ten elite program in that same position.
Yeah, Florida beats LSU 13-3. Everybody talks about how it's a great game. It wasn't. It wasn't a great game. You can have a great game be 13-3, 13-6 if things go a certain way. Let's predict the scores on this one. The line's about 4.5. Penn State's favored by 4.5, depending on the source. What kind of score do you have?
Well, I'm picking Penn State 7-6. I'm just kidding. Actually, I think Penn State is going to unleash some of this offense. I think they've been, for a few years, been building to a game like this where they have the offensive parts in place. They have their passing game in place. I'm saying Penn State 27, Ohio State 10.
Wow.
I just think that the moons are aligned. The defense is playing great. I think you have an inexperienced leader coming in here with Ohio State, and I don't know how he's going to hold up to that. I look for it to be fairly decisive.
Wow, Wow. I'm going to go 23-13, and I thought my score was pretty big. I'll go 23-13 for a lot of the same reasons Neil said. I think Penn State's offense will play well. Two great defenses. One key for this game, Ohio State's kicker is out for the rest of the regular season. He got injured last week, so the Buckeyes may not be able to score once they get down into Penn State territory. If they can't go for a touchdown, who knows what their place-kicking situation will be like. So 27-10, 23-13, both of us have Penn State. Thanks for joining us this week. Should be a fun game on Saturday. For Neil Rudel, I'm Cory Geiger. We'll be back every week with our Paterno Presser here at AltoonaMirror.com.